First of all, uh, as you all know now, that Elizabethan age was much more calm age than the previous ones. It is an age of religious tolerance and a lot of exploration is going on. People are discovering new things. Innovation is going on. So in literature, we see a few major shifts. They are few in number, but they are very major. First of all, the literature of the time moved from the church to the common man or to human beings, because as we all know that it was an age of humanism. Everyone was focused on how the humankind or the mankind responds to the powers of nature, to the different aspects of nature, and how they are influenced by different things, human emotions, human relationships, and previously the whole literature was a sort of moral literature, didactic literature. It was deeply connected with the church, but here now we see. Just a minute, please. Okay, so we see that the literature was influenced by humanism and it was no longer connected to the church. And the people who were writing literature, they were university men rather than, or university men or laymen or people from the the worldly men rather than the people of the church. So it was a major influence or major diversion from the previous literature. And in this age, you find patriotism in literature also. And there was a growing awareness among the English people of their own identity, of their, and they were quite proud over their identities. And when they destroyed the Spanish Armada, when they had a few sort of successes, and it was a con- uh, continuous successful period for them, and initialized in them a sense of patriotism, and it is also reflected in the literature of the time. The third important thing is experimentation with literature. When I say experimentation, it is not like the scientific experimentation, but it is experimentation with the verse forms, with meter, with rhyme schemes, and with stanza forms, and also some English forms were developed during that time. And these are, and then we have previously in previous ages we had just poetry and religious things. Really, whatever literature was written, it was religious. What was in prose work, it was largely the translation of Bible or the stories of the saints and all that. But now a new sort of prose was in progress. It was an age when poetry was different from the previous ages, and it was an experimental. It was, although it was in experimental stages, but it was very fruitful. The experiments were successful. When I say again, I repeat it: the experiments were not with the new forms of literature or genres of literature, but it was experimentation with the meter, with the rhyme scheme, and with the form of stanza, with the formation of lyrical poetry or ballads and whatever it was. And then we have prose writers like Francis Bacon, as you all know, he's the major writer. And then we have John Lilly, we have even Philip Sidney, who was a poet and also a courtier, and he was also a prose writer. And you must have heard his work, or you must have studied it, the Apology for Poetry or An Apology for Poetry. And then we have a long list of dramatists. It is, although it is not very long, but their works are they were all very prolific. They had a lot of dramas. Only Shakespeare had 37 dramas. And then we have Christopher Marlowe, Greene, Beeley, Lilly, and Ben Jonson also. So we have a lot of dramatists, we have a lot of poets, and we have not a lot of poets, but there were minor poets, a lot of minor poets, but the dramatists were large in number, because at that time, people, the freelancers, as we call them, freelancers today, in that time, or in that age, they were called the hack writers. The hack writers. hack writers mean hack writers. This is the term I have written in the chat. This is a term which was given to the writers who could write you a scene in a drama, or who could write a whole drama for you for the sake of money. They were minor writers, but they could write drama. And from this, you can understand how prolific all the dramatists of this age were. And the prose writers like Francis Bacon, as I have mentioned, he is one of the very big names in English literature, and he was also a scientist. And then we have Nash, Robert Nash, and then we have Sir Walter Raleigh. They have all of them are very good prose writers. So a new genre, or two new genres, you can say, were being established at that time, and they were prose and drama. And now, if in order to study this age, Elizabethan age, and from now on, we will be studying three things: poetry, drama, and novel. And sorry, not novel, prose. And when we go to the end of towards the end of 18th century, then we will come up with novel, and the first novel and how it all began, and the novel in America. Although we'll discuss the American history later on, but I will just give you an episode about the what was going on in American literature at that time. So now we come to poetry. First of all, we have a great name, Edmund Spenser, Sir Edmund Spenser. He is a very important writer of the Elizabethan age, and he was not a very rich person. When he initially started his education, he was on scholarship. He largely studied on scholarship, and he was a graduate from Cambridge University. And Cambridge at that time was a sort of a liberal university, you can say, but not that liberal, but it was a mixture of Catholic, it had a religious flexibility for the Catholics as well as for the Protestants. And religion was not much of a concern at that time. And Edmund Spenser, like all the people of that age, he wanted to have a close connection with the court, and he wanted to have a sort of scholarship for him, or stipend assigned for him by the Queen, or by the court, or by some lord. And he was patterned by Lord Leicester, and Leicester was at that time. Lord Leicester was a favorite of the Queen, and he was given a stipend, and he began writing poetry, and he wrote all of many things, many small poems, short poems. Then he went to the north of England, and when he came back from north, he was sent to Ireland. He was made a, you can say, assistant of a major lord, and he was sent to Ireland. And Ireland at that time was a British colony, and they were oppressed people, and they were fighting for Catholicism. They were Roman Catholics, and they wanted Catholicism to prevail there. They wanted the Catholic Church to be their church. But the English, the British throne, they were quite oppressive over them, and they considered the Irish people as their rebels, and they wanted to oppress the rebels, and it was a continuous struggle, which you might have studied in the poetry of Seamus Heaney. And also there are a lot of movies on the Irish struggle, struggle for freedom. The Patriot is one, and I think it is Patriot, which is filmed on the Irish movement, the Irish struggle for freedom. And the Irish people were very much oppressed at that time. And when Edmund Spenser, along with his lord, he went there. They were quite successful in putting down the rebellion, and he was granted a large property over there. And when he was granted a large estate, and he was given a tower of his own. Tower was, at that time, it was a castle, and his life became very comfortable at that time, very luxurious at that time. And why I'm telling this, because this is very important for his poetic mind, to understand his poetic mind or to understand his poetic ability. And uh, in that setting, it was a very beautiful area, and it was perfect romantic setting for a poet of his stature. And it was perfect for him. So just a minute, please. So when he lived there, he started writing The Fairy Queen and The Shepherd's Calendar. And later on, during his time there, he was promoted to a sheriff. And when he was sheriff, the rebels of Ireland came up with a new rebellion and with much more force, and they started destroying his castle, and he barely escaped. And when he came back to London, he died there in an inn. And what are the works which he wrote? The major one is The Fairy Queen, which I have sent a file in the group, and you can see there the spellings and all that over there. The Fairy Queen, it is not the fairy, the spellings are old spelling. And the second one of his major works is The Shepherd's Calendar. And then he had a few short poems, an elegy named Astrophel Amorati, which was written in praise of Elizabeth, his beloved. And interestingly, he fell in love with an Irish woman, and he married her, and she remained his wife till his death. And he also wrote Epithalamion, and this poem is uh, written in praise of. It is a marriage hymn, and it is one of the most celebrated hymns, or as you know, hymns or hymns, uh, and it is very much celebrated uh, among the wedding hymns of the English literature. So now I would like to tell you something about the Fairy Queen, the poetic technique of the Fairy Queen, and it is very important because they can ask you uh, voice issue with Sadia. If you are the only one with voice issue here, just please reconnect. And if you send me message in the chat continuously, I just lose my concentration because I have to look at a few screens, the chat screen, the internet connection, and so now I would like to tell you something about the Fairy Queen, and you can make note of the things which I'm going to tell you, because uh, you might be asked a few questions about Fairy Queen, about the original plan of the poem, or why it is famous, who was the knight in the poem, and all that. So it is the great work upon which his fame chiefly rests. The original plan of the poem includes 24 books, each of which was to recount the adventure and triumph of a knight who represented a moral virtue. So 24 books were in the original plan, but he never was able to finish it. And he invented a new verse form for the Fairy Queen, and a new stanza, which is called, till today, it is called Spenserian stanza. Spenserian stanza. I will discuss it later on. After I have done with all the poems, I will do this. And this is a work which is allegorical work. And by the way, we will discuss 5 literary terms today also, and you will find what is allegory in that. So it is an allegorical work in which he discusses the character of Queen Elizabeth. He also praises her character. He praises Sir Philip Sidney, who was his friend also. He also praises Lord Leicester and many more things. So it is an Allegory, which is written in a new form, in a new poetic, in a new verse form, which is, or in a new experimented form, and he named it. It is still known as the Spenserian stanza. He came up with a stanza of his own. The other one is this next poem. The next important poem is the Shepherd's Calendar, and it is the best known of Spenser's poem. And some people regard it as his first work, and it might be his first work, but it is not as melodious as the Fairy Queen, and it consists of 12 pastoral poems, 12 pastoral poems, pastoral poems. Pastoral poems are the poems written in rural setting, in the settings of countryside, and the themes of country life or rural life are replete in this poem. Plenty of themes like this, and the speakers in the poem are shepherds and shepherdesses. And in order to enhance the rustic ability or to enhance the effect, he uses a few words which are not English words, but these words are taken from different languages, and he uses them uh, uh, in order to elaborate the idea that all the people are in the poem are shepherds, or they are illiterate, or they use their own language instead of using uh, the language of the common language which was spoken in the English by the English people. So uh, there are 24 books in the original plan of the Fairy Queen, and there are 12 pastoral poems in the Shepherd's Calendar. And it is, by the way, it is a work in which there is prose involved along with the poetry. The 12 parts, they are divided by, they begin or end by a poem, and then we have a prose section also. The other very important poems of this writer are uh, Astrophel. Astrophel is an elegy, and you must know it is not necessary to study each and every work of all the writers, but you can just satisfy yourself with the names and also with the theme of the poem. And I will just give you a theme of the poem and along with the names. So I'm writing them in the chat. The first one was Astrophel, and it is an elegy on the death of uh, Flip Sydney. And this can be a very important question: that which poem was written, or which poet wrote a poem on the death of Flip Sydney? So Edmund Spenser wrote Astrophel, and it is an elegy on the death of Sir Flip Sydney. Then he wrote Amorati, and Amorati it is, you can say, it is a love poem or a love sonnet which was written for Elizabeth. And this Elizabeth is the name of his beloved. It is not the Queen Elizabeth. It is the Elizabeth, the Irish Elizabeth, death of Flip Sydney, Sir Flip Sydney. I'm writing this. You will get this in the chat. Uh, I think my internet connection is not stable, maybe. Uh, no, it is okay. So the second one is Amorati. It is written in praise of Elizabeth, and this Elizabeth is his beloved. It is not the Queen Elizabeth, the Irish beloved, which later became his wife. And then Epithalamen. Epithalamen is the marriage hymn written up on his marriage when he married Elizabeth, the Irish lady whom he loved, and he wrote a poem there. And as I have told you, that it is one of the best poems that was the best hymns, marriage hymns that was written or that is present in the English poetry. And he also wrote a satire, and this is Mother Hubbard's Tale, and it is a satire on society. And you can find all the names if you have a problem with the connection or anything else. You can see the names which are also written in the file which I sent you earlier. So And there are a few other poems, and these poems are sort of allegories. These are love songs, and these are simple poems, not very famous. And these, some of them are melancholy poems, and but the greater works which we have discussed are whatever we have discussed are the greater works, and no examiner is supposed to ask you something which is beyond these writers, because he is just a writer in one age, and there are a lot of writers in the Elizabethan age. So, uh, as a matter of fact, the examiner would not be able to ask you so many questions from Elizabethan age. He might ask you about 6 to 7 questions from this age. And when you are talking about Elizabethan age, you have to give a considerable space to Shakespeare. You have to give a considerable space to uh, Christopher Marlowe. And then we have the university bits. They must ask you a question about university bits. And then you have poets like John Donne and John Milton, and all that. So it is not possible for him to ask you questions about the minor points. So now I come back to the Spenserian stanza. What is a Spenserian stanza? It is a stanza which consists of 9 lines. It is also called ottava rima. Ottava rima. Ottava rima. And it consists of 9 lines. And the 8 lines, the first 8 lines are of iambic pentameter. 8 lines are, sorry, 8 lines are iambic pentameters. And the last one is Alexandrine. Alexandrine. Alexandrine is iambic hexameter. Hexameter. So, and the rhyme scheme was AB, AB. I think every one of you knows the rhyme scheme and how it is written. And this is the rhyme scheme: AB, AB, and then BC, BC, and C. This is the rhyme scheme, and you must note all the 4 or 5 lines which I have written about the Spenserian stanza. I repeat it. It is ottava rima, sorry, ottava rima, which means that it consists of 9 lines, the first 8 of which are written in iambic pentameter, and the last line is written in Alexandrine, and you can also call it iambic hexameter, because iambic hexameter is called Alexandrine. And you must know all these terms. And does any one of you, I it is expected that all of you must know what is iambic pentameter, or what is an iamb and what is a pentameter. So if you don't know, then please tell me. I would like to explain it, or if not today, I will explain it in the next lecture, but I can give you just an idea. Uh, just raise your hands if you know it. No hands? Oh, okay, only common knows. I think I have to do this. In As you all know, I hope you all know that every English word has it can be monosyllable or it can be polysyllable. It can have one syllable or it can have two syllables. One syllable is stressed and the other one is unstressed. So a pattern in which one syllable is stressed and one is unstressed is called an EM. It is called an EM. IAMB. It is called an EM. So a pattern of unstressed and stressed syllable is called an EM. And if there are 5 such feet, and 1 am, one pattern, or this uh, unstressed and stressed is also known as a foot. And if you have 5 EMs or 5 foot, then you can call 5 unstressed, sorry, unstressed and stressed syllables. These are called iambic pentameter, because penta means 5. And if you say hexameter, then this is a pattern of 6 syllables, 6 unstressed and 6 stressed. And they come in the form of, the first one is stressed, the other one is unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, and then it is also, you can say, it forms like a structure when it is sung, or it is written, it is like da 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 da, you can say. This is the pattern which it makes. So one tada is 1 EM, the second is third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, so this is the iambic meter. And rhyme scheme is actually the last words, or the last consonants, or the last letters there, or the last sounds, the words, the last, pronunciation or the sounds of the last letters or the last words, if they are the same, then it is called in rhyme. And if he, for example, the first line ends with race, the second one must end with ace, and this is called AA. And if you have to call it AB, then race, and you make it with made, for example. And made is a new word or new sound. And then the next stanza again is like face, and you can made can be made, MAID. I'm just changing the spelling. So this is the pattern which he used. This is the rhyme scheme which he used for his poetry. So today we have done Philip Sidney and Sir Edmund Spencer and Elizabeth Age. And now, if you have any questions related to these two writers, you can just tell me. And I also want to take you to literary terms today. So we will start with the literary terms, and now I think you can see it on your screens. The first one we are going to do is affective fallacy, or I think we should start with allegory. Yes, because we have used it today, and I find it more fitting to do this. Allegory. And you can take a screenshot of this one, and or you can just study it afterwards. So what is allegory? I would like to describe it in Urdu, and then I will be switching languages in this, because it is something which you must understand very clearly. Allegory एक हम ऐसी स्टोरी को या ऐसी पोएम को कहते हैं, ठीक है, तो वो स्टोरी प्रोज में भी लिखी जा सकती है, वर्स की फॉर्म में भी हो सकती है, नॉवल के अंदर भी हो सकती है, जो कि दो मीनिंग्स रखती हो, यानी कि उसके दो मीनिंग्स हो, एक उसका सरफेस मीनिंग है और एक उसका अंडर मीनिंग, जो अंडर द सरफेस मीनिंग है, या जिसे आप इम्प्लाइड मीनिंग कहते हैं, ठीक है। अब अगर इम्प्लाइड मीनिंग को हम लेते हैं, तो सिर्फ अगर इम्प्लाइड मीनिंग को ले लें, तो ये जरूरी नहीं है कि वो अलैगरी होगी, ठीक है। अलैगरी इम्प्लाइड मीनिंग हम कई ऐसी वर्क्स हैं, कई ऐसी क्रिटिसिज्म की टेक्निक्स हैं जिनके अंदर हम लेते ही इम्प्लाइड मीनिंग को है या साइकोलॉजिकल मीनिंग को लेते हैं, ठीक है। लेकिन जो अलैगरी होती है उसके अंदर आपने दोनों मीनिंग्स को देखना होता है, द सुपरफिशियल मीनिंग एज वेल एज द अंडर द सरफेस मीनिंग, ठीक है। तो जब आप इन दोनों को देखते हैं, अंडर द सरफेस और ये जो ऊपर जो मीनिंग्स नजर आ रहे हैं, जो बज़ाहिर उसके मीनिंग्स हैं, अगर आप इन दोनों को देखते हैं तो फिर आपको ज्यादा उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग होती है, ठीक है। अब मैं इसकी मिसाल देता हूँ आपको कि अगर आपने एनिमल फार्म अगर किसी ने पढ़ा हो, तो वो एक एलेगोरिकल वर्क है, ठीक है। उसके अंदर वो जानवरों की स्टोरी दिखाता है हमें, ठीक है। जॉर्ज ऑरवेल ने वो लिखा है, और वो हमें जानवरों की स्टोरी दिखाता है, लेकिन उसके अंदर जो हिडन मीनिंग है या अंडर द सरफेस उसका मीनिंग है, वो सटायर कर रहा है रशियन रेवोल्यूशन के ऊपर, ठीक है। तो ये दो एक तरह से उसके अंदर बातें हैं, लेकिन बज़ाहिर उसने अपने आप को बचाने के लिए, इसलिए कि कोई उस पर क्रिटिसिज्म ना करे या उसको रोके ना या वो गिरफ्तार ना, क्योंकि रशियंस जो थे बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट थे, तो इसलिए उसने कहीं उसके खिलाफ ना हो जाए या कोई और ऐसा सिलसिला ना बन जाए, तो इसलिए एलेगरी को यूज किया जाता है, ठीक है। और एलेगरी जो है इसकी दो आप टाइप्स आप समझ सकते हैं। एक तो पॉलिटिकल एलेगरी है, जिसकी मैंने आपकी एग्जांपल दिया, एनिमल फार्म इसकी पॉलिटिकल एग्जांपल है, या पॉलिटिकल एलेगरी या हिस्टोरिकल एलेगरी। और उसकी जो सेकंड टाइप है एलेगरी की, वो आप कह सकते हैं कि आइडियोलॉजिकल एलेगरी, ठीक है। यानी कि आपने कोई आइडिया प्रेजेंट करना है और उस आइडिया को आप प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन किसी एक नए तरीके के साथ, इस तरीके के साथ कि उसके बज़ाहिर मीनिंग भी कुछ हो, यानी कि आप बज़ाहिर स्टोरी को एंजॉय करना चाहें तो वो भी कर लें, और उसके अगर आप अंडर द सरफेस मीनिंग को देखें तो आप उसको भी एंजॉय करें, ठीक है। और इसके अंदर जो बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है वो क्या है, जॉन बर्नियर, जिसको हम बाद में पढ़ेंगे, पिलग्रिम्स प्रोग्रेस उसने लिखा था एक, ठीक है। और पिलग्रिम्स प्रोग्रेस बड़ी जबरदस्त स्टोरी है, जिसके अंदर एक क्रिश्चियन बंदा है, उसका नाम भी क्रिश्चियन है, और वो किस तरह जो है वो स्ट्रगल करता है, यानी कि जिस तरह हम अपनी लाइफ में स्ट्रगल कर रहे होते हैं, स्पिरिचुअल स्ट्रगल्स होती हैं, इसी तरह वो भी स्पिरिचुअल स्ट्रगल कर रहा है, और फिर किस तरह जो है ना वो बचत उसकी होती है, किस तरह वो लैंड ऑफ डिस्ट्रक्शन में से गुजरता है। और वो बहरहाल हम इसको डिस्कस करेंगे जब हम जॉन बनियन पे आएंगे। ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है, पिलग्रिम्स प्रोग्रेस जो है बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट वर्क है, ठीक है। ये एलेगरी, और एलेगरी जो है वर्ड लिया कहाँ से गया है, ये ग्रीक वर्ड है एलेगोरिया, जिसका मतलब क्या है, स्पीकिंग अदरवाइज, यानी कि स्पीकिंग विद डबल मीनिंग और स्पीकिंग विद टू मीनिंग्स, ठीक है जी। तो ये एलेगरी होती है। और अब आपको समझ आ गई होगी कि उसने जो फेरी क्वीन लिखी थी वो एलेगरी किस तरह थी, कि बज़ाहिर जो है वो कोई और उसका नाम कुछ और लिखा हुआ है, ठीक है। जिस तरह फ्लिप सिडनी को नाइट के तौर पर प्रेजेंट किया हुआ उसमें, ठीक है। तो जो नाइट है वो वैसे आप उसको एंजॉय कर रहे होंगे नाइट की स्टोरी के साथ, ठीक है, लेकिन अगर आप उसको फ्लिप सिडनी लगा के पढ़ें तो और ज्यादा मजा आएगा, ठीक है, उसके मीनिंग्स में इजाफा हो जाएगा, ठीक है जी। और दूसरी जो टर्म मैंने आज डिस्कस करनी है, जो ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है, अफेक्टिव फैलेसी। फैलेसी हम कहते हैं गलती को, किसी भी ऐसी चीज को, ऐसी मिस्टेक और ऐसे एरर को जिसको हम पता ना हो हमें को एरर है, ठीक है, यानी कि हम उसको एरर एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते हम, लेकिन वो है एरर, ठीक है। इसको कहा जाता है फैलेसी। तो अफेक्टिव फैलेसी का मतलब ये है कि आप पोएम को एवेल्युएट कैसे कर रहे हैं, आप इस तरह एवेल्युएट कर रहे हैं कि इसका अफेक्ट क्या हो रहा है, हाउ डज इट अफेक्ट द रीडर। अफेक्टिव से निकला है, ठीक है, अफेक्ट से निकला है, सॉरी, अफेक्टिव। तो किस तरह रीडर के ऊपर अफेक्ट क्या हो रहा है इसका, इस वर्क ऑफ आर्ट का, ठीक है, और आप उसका इफेक्ट, इमोशनल इफेक्ट कर रहा है या जिस तरह भी कर रहा है, तो हम उस तरह उसको जज कर रहे होते हैं, ठीक है। और आम तौर पे जो नोवाइसिस होते हैं, यानी कि जो आम बंदे होते हैं, आम लोग जो लिटरेचर पढ़ने वाले हैं, जो निम्र अहमद और उमैर अहमद को पढ़ने वाले हैं, वो इफेक्टिव फैलेसी का ही शिकार होते हैं। वो कहते हैं फलां ने पढ़ा था वो रोने लग पड़ा था, मैं भी पढ़ता हूँ मुझे रोना आ जाता है, ठीक है। ऐसे हम, यानी कि जो कहते हैं, मैं नहीं कह रहा, वैसे मैं कह रहा हूँ, ठीक है, यानी कि मुझे नहीं रोना आ जाता, मैं वैसे बता रहा हूँ। तो अगर कोई बंदा ये समझे कि क्योंकि नुमैर अहमद को पढ़ के मुझे रोना आ गया या मैं बड़ा ईमान मेरा ताजा हो गया, तो इसका मतलब वो बड़ी जबरदस्त किताब है, तो ये अफेक्टिव फैलेसी है, ठीक है। सिंपल वर्ड्स मैंने आपको बता दिया। और इस तरह की अगर आप ये काम करेंगे तो फिर क्या होगा, फिर आप पोएट के दूसरी चीजों को नहीं देखेंगे, बल्कि आप इसको देखेंगे, आप सिर्फ उसको एवेल्युएट इस तरह ही करेंगे कि इसका मेरे पे असर क्या हो रहा है, ठीक है। और अगर कोई बंदा बड़ा जज्बाती है तो उसको हर वर्ड की लगेगा बड़ा जज्बाती है, और कोई बंदा अगर फर्ज करें रिलीजियस माइंडेड है, आप उसको कोई ऐसा वर्ड पकड़ा दें, या फर्ज करें आपसे पैराडाइज लॉस्ट पकड़ा दें, तो वो कहेगा अस्तगफिरुल्लाह, ये क्या पकड़ा दिया मुझे। तो क्योंकि उसके अंदर उसने सेटन को जो कुछ बताया हुआ है, ठीक है, अगर कि वो खुद बड़ा पक्का क्रिश्चियन है और वो सेटन के खिलाफ ही है, लेकिन उसके बावजूद लोग जो बड़े हैरान और परेशान हो जाएंगे। तो ये अफेक्टिव फैलेसी कि उसका रीडर पे क्या अफेक्ट है, ठीक है जी। तो यहाँ पे हम अपना लेक्चर अब एंड करते हैं, और किसी को भी अगर कोई क्वेश्चन है तो वो मुझे व्हाट्सएप कर दें या ईमेल कर दें या ग्रुप के अंदर पूछ लें, ठीक है जी। यहाँ पे हम एंड करते हैं। अल्लाह हाफिज।